Listeria is a harmful bacteria that can cause illness and death. Unfortunately, in New Zealand, people have died following the consumption of ready-to-eat foods contaminated with Listeria. As a food processor, you can be prosecuted if people get sick or die from Listeria-contaminated food. Food often gets contaminated with Listeria in the processing environment. Learn how to minimise the risk by developing a Listeria management plan and environmental swabbing. Listeria is frequently isolated from inside food factories, where there's usually plenty of food and moisture to enable them to grow to very high numbers. It's really important to control Listeria in food factories to minimise the chances of Listeria contaminating food. Floors and drains are most likely to become contaminated with Listeria. Think about it. Anything and everything could fall onto the floor. Cracks and holes in the floor provide excellent places for Listeria to live and grow. And it doesn't take much to spread to food contact surfaces. Cross-contamination is a real problem for ready-to-eat foods. That's the bad news. No one likes getting sick. So what can we do about it? Well, every manufacturer of ready-to-eat foods needs a Listeria management plan. This includes such things as making sure the building is secure to keep out pests like rodents and insects, controlling how things are taken into the processing area, including controlling what people wear and how they enter the processing area. Hopefully the precautions taken to keep Listeria out have worked. But how do you know? This is where environmental swabbing comes in. If you take swabs from likely places in your processing area, you get a good idea about how good the control measures really are. You'll need to design your own sampling plan by identifying sampling sites inside your premises. You should include areas you think might become contaminated from time to time, including some of those hard to clean areas. You might have to go looking for some of those nooks and crannies that aren't always obvious. And if you do find Listeria, you can take some corrective action, such as extra cleaning, before it gets completely out of hand and contaminates your products. Let's meet Geraldine. Geraldine's going to explain how you can take swab samples from the processing area for Listeria testing. Let's go with Geraldine and see what sampling gear we need. We're going to start with these large gauze swabs because they seem to be the best for picking up Listeria. Here's a swab that's been left out so you can see what it's like. It's just an ordinary cotton wound dressing that's been sterilised in some special liquid, so it's moist and ready to use. You need forceps to hold onto the swab. You need a container of 70% alcohol or meths to sterilise the forceps between samples. And you need sterile bags to put your swabs in after you've done your swabbing. Label each bag with a vivid marker before you start. Geraldine is writing the date and the sample location. The location has been taken from the site sampling plan. You can always add additional samples if you see anything interesting on the day. This is another type of swab used by some companies. These flexi swabs are convenient to use, but they're not as good at picking up low numbers of Listeria from the processing environment. You can't apply as much pressure to the swab as you can with a large gauze swab.
I like to put everything into a container that can be easily cleaned on the way into the processing area. We're going to start in the processing areas and work our way out from there. That means we start in the high-risk areas whilst we're still clean. Otherwise, we run the risk of introducing contaminants into the high-risk areas from other, less clean areas. Okay, let's get going. Now, remember to follow all the rules of safe entry. I'll start with the areas that are least likely to be contaminated. Let's get the gear out. First, you need to sterilize the forceps. Then flick off the alcohol so it doesn't interfere with the sample. Next, you need to carefully remove one swab from the pottle. The good thing about these particular forceps is that they lock, so you can't drop things, unless you want to, of course. Alternatively, you can use long stainless steel tweezers. I'm going to start by swabbing a food contact surface, like this food preparation table. The advantage of these large gauze swabs is that you can cover a very large area. You can put a large amount of elbow grease in to get all those bugs off the surface. You can turn the swab over so you can get multiple sides of the swab. Don't forget, we do want to find the Listeria in the environment before it gets into our product. Once you've taken your swab, you need to make sure that it's put in the sample bag aseptically. That means without touching the swab or letting it come into contact with any other surface, including the outside of the bag. Flatten the bag down and secure the bag. The swab is now ready to go to the lab.
If you have a very large area to swab, such as this rack, or even a large machine or bench, you could consider taking a number of swabs from the area and putting them all together in one sample bag, just like Geraldine is doing here. We call this composite swabbing. Each composite is tested as one sample, and so you can keep the costs down while significantly increasing the sensitivity of the test. If you composite swabs from different areas and then get a positive result, you won't be able to tell which of the areas swabbed was positive, only that one or more of the sites sampled was contaminated. In this case, you'll need to resample and retest each area again separately to confirm the source of contamination. Once you've sampled product contact surfaces, you can move on to other parts of the processing area. Include places likely to be touched frequently, such as door handles and taps. Include floors, especially wet areas, cracks or holes, and even drains. These are areas that may be expected to be contaminated from time to time. Back in the butchery, we're going to look at how the Flexi Swab is used. Remember to label the swab tube before sampling, include your ID, sample date, and sample number or description. Be careful to only touch the handle during swabbing. Swab as large an area as you need. Press as firmly as you can to improve the chances of picking up Listeria from the surfaces being swabbed. When you've finished, replace the swab into the tube. Here are the swab samples ready to be packed up for the courier. It's best to keep them in the fridge until you're ready to pack them up. You'll need to fill in a sample submission form provided by the lab. You need to include your contact information, name, address, email address, contact phone number, etc., as well as the sample information. You need to put the completed form into a plastic bag so it doesn't get wet inside the chili bin. Ice or freezer packs will keep the samples cool during transport to the lab. This is really important to keep any Listeria in good condition and to stop all the other bacteria from growing and ruining the sample. Placing a paper towel between the freezer pads and the sample stops the sample from freezing. Place all the swab samples into another, bigger plastic bag. Add the bag with the sample submission form and close it off tightly with a knot or rubber band. Seal the container. Attach an address label for the lab. Keep the chili bin in the fridge or chiller if the courier pickup is going to be more than about 1 hour. Arrange courier pickup to get samples to the lab within 24 hours of sampling. And that's it. Job done. Okay, so that's it. The lab should have your results in a couple of days so you can keep on top of any Listeria contamination issues. Remember, don't be afraid of positive results. This gives you an opportunity to sort out your systems before your products become contaminated.